The message came at midnight. Admiral Kira Vasquez stood alone in her quarters on the colony world of New Eden when her communicator began to flash red. Red meant emergency. Red meant death. She opened the transmission and felt her blood turn cold. 4 human colonies had gone silent in the past 72 hours. Not just silent, erased. The Vorathian hegemony, the ancient alliance of 6 alien species that ruled most of the galaxy, had begun killing humans. No warnings. No demands. No mercy. 18 billion people had died while the rest of humanity slept. Vasquez had served in the fleet for 30 years. She had seen battle. She had lost friends. But nothing had prepared her for this. The Vorathians were not just attacking. They were erasing humanity from existence. Her communicator buzzed again. This time, it was a broadcast on all frequencies, sent to every human world at once. The face that appeared was not human. It belonged to High Chancellor Varth, leader of the hegemony. His gray skin stretched over a skull too long, too narrow. His eyes were black pools without warmth or pity. "Your kind spreads like disease," the Chancellor said. His voice was calm, almost bored. "You multiply. You consume. You pollute every system you touch. The 6 great species have voted. The decision is final. Humanity ends." The transmission cut off. Vasquez stood in the darkness of her room and felt the weight of those words pressed down on her chest. This was not war. This was extermination. Within hours, Earth Command confirmed the worst fears. The hegemony had assembled the largest fleet in galactic history, 3,000 warships, each one carrying enough firepower to crack a planet. They had already destroyed the outer colonies. Now they were coming for the rest. Their final target was Earth itself, humanity's homeworld. The cradle of their species. Earth Command gave Vasquez new orders. She was to report immediately to Titan, the largest moon of Saturn. There, in shipyards hidden deep beneath the frozen surface, humanity had built something in secret, something they had hoped would never be needed. Vasquez took a transport ship and left New Eden behind. She looked through the window at the blue oceans and green continents below. 3 billion people lived on that world. Children played in parks. Families sat down to dinner. They did not know yet that an alien empire had sent them to death. The journey to Titan took 2 days. When Vasquez arrived, she was taken deep underground through tunnels carved into the ice. Armed guards checked her identity at every checkpoint. The security was unlike anything she had ever seen. Then she saw it. The ship filled the entire cavern. It was black as night, shaped like a blade, longer than any vessel humanity had ever built. Its hull was covered in weapons cannons, missile pods, and strange devices that Vasquez did not recognize. The name was written in white letters along the side. U.S. Ruthless Force. A young officer met her at the entrance. His name was Commander Tobias Reed, and he was the man who had designed this ship. "Admiral," Reed said, saluting. "Welcome aboard the most dangerous weapon humanity has ever created." Vasquez walked through the corridors of the Ruthless Force in silence. Reed explained everything as they moved. The ship was powered by a captured singularity, a tiny black hole contained in a magnetic bottle. It could travel faster than any other vessel in the galaxy. Its armor was made from materials that did not exist in nature. And its weapons. "We broke every law the hegemony ever wrote," Reed said quietly. "Planet crackers, star lance arrays, and something else. Something I hope we never have to use." Vasquez stopped walking. "What is it?" Reed looked at her with tired eyes. "We call it the Prometheus Protocol. It is a weaponized singularity. Point it at a star, and that star dies, along with everything around it." Vasquez felt sick. Humanity had built a weapon that could kill suns. They had become the monsters the aliens always feared they were. But what choice did they have? She took command of the Ruthless Force that same day. The crew was assembled from every surviving colony soldiers who had lost families, engineers who had watched their worlds burn, scientists who wanted revenge. They were not an army. They were survivors with nothing left to lose. On the bridge, Vasquez studied the tactical display. The Varathian extermination fleet was 19 days from Earth. 3,000 ships against 1. The math was simple. If she tried to defend Earth, she would lose. Humanity would die. So she made a different choice. Set course for Varathian space, she ordered. Her officers stared at her in shock. One of them spoke up. Admiral, Earth needs us. We should go back and what? Vasquez cut him off. Die defending a planet we cannot save? No. The hegemony thinks they can wipe us out without consequences. They think we are weak. They think we will run and hide and beg for mercy. She stood from her chair and looked at her crew. I will not beg. I will not hide. If humanity dies, then the galaxy will remember the price of killing us. We are not going to defend our home. We are going to attack theirs. The bridge was silent. Then, one by one, the crew began to nod. They understood. This was not about winning. This was about making sure the hegemony never forgot the name of the species they tried to destroy. The engines of the Ruthless Force roared to life. The great ship rose from the ice of Titan and turned toward the stars. Behind them, Earth waited in fear. Ahead of them, an empire waited in ignorance. They did not know what was coming. They would learn. The Ruthless Force moved through space like a ghost. Its black hull swallowed light. Its engines burned with a cold blue fire that left no trail. The hegemony had sensors across the galaxy, watching every corner of their territory. They did not see the human ship coming. Admiral Vasquez spent the first 3 days learning her vessel. She walked every corridor, visited every station, and spoke with every crew member. There were 2,000 souls aboard, men and women who had volunteered for a mission they might not survive. She wanted to know their names. She wanted to remember their faces. Commander Reed walked beside her as she toured the weapons deck. Massive cannons lined the walls, each one connected to power cables as thick as trees. Reed explained each system with the quiet pride of a father showing off his children. The main batteries can punch through any armor in the galaxy, he said. The hegemony uses energy shields. We use kinetic round solid metal moving at a fraction of light speed. Their shields cannot stop physics. Vasquez ran her hand along one of the cannons. The metal was cold. And the planet crackers? Reed's face grew serious. Warheads that drill into a planet's core and trigger a chain reaction. The world tears itself apart from the inside. He paused. I designed them to end wars fast. I never thought we would actually use them. They continued walking in silence. Vasquez thought about the billions of humans who had already died. She thought about the children on New Eden who did not know their world was marked for death. The hegemony had shown no mercy. They had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. On the 4th day, the Ruthless Force crossed into hegemony space. They were now inside enemy territory, surrounded by hundreds of alien worlds. Any ship that spotted them would sound the alarm. Thousands of warships would hunt them down. But the hegemony did not see them. The Ruthless Force was too fast, too quiet, too advanced. Humanity had spent 50 years hiding this technology, letting the aliens believe they were weak. That lie was about to end. On the 5th day, they found the enemy. A Varathian patrol fleet appeared on the sensor's 40 warships, guarding a supply route. The alien vessels were sleek and silver, shaped like crescents. Each one was larger than any human ship in the regular fleet. Together, they carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Vasquez sat in her command chair and studied the enemy formation. Her crew watched her in tense silence. This would be their first real test. 40 against 1. The odds looked impossible. "Commander Reed," Vasquez said calmly, "target all enemy vessels. Fire when ready." Reed's hands moved across his console. The ruthless force shuddered as its weapons came online. Outside, the stars seemed to hold their breath. Then the darkness lit up with fire. The first volley struck the Varathian flagship before it could raise shields. The kinetic rounds tore through the hull like paper. The ship exploded in a ball of white light. Before the debris had finished spreading, the second volley was already flying. Ship after ship died in the void. The aliens tried to return fire, but their weapons splashed harmlessly against the ruthless force's armor. They tried to run, but the human ship was faster. 11 minutes. That was all it took. 40 Varathian warships reduced to floating wreckage. The ruthless force had not taken a single hit. The bridge was silent. The crew stared at their screens in disbelief. They had known their ship was powerful. They had not known it was this powerful. Vasquez allowed herself a small smile. "Send a message to the hegemony command frequency. Let them know who did this." The message was simple. Humanity remembers. Humanity repays. Within hours, the hegemony knew something was wrong. Reports flooded their communication networks. A patrol fleet had been destroyed. No survivors. No distress calls. Just silence and debris. The attackers were unknown. The alien commanders searched their records. They found nothing. No human ship matched the energy signature. No human weapon could have done this damage. Some suggested it was a malfunction, an accident, friendly fire. Others whispered darker theories. The High Chancellor himself demanded answers. His generals had none to give. Meanwhile, the ruthless force continued deeper into enemy space. Vasquez pushed her crew hard. They trained constantly, running drills for every possible scenario. They studied hegemony tactics, memorized enemy ship layouts, and practiced emergency repairs. But they also talked. In the mess hall, in the corridors, and quiet moments between shifts, the crew shared stories. They spoke of homes they had lost and families they would never see again. They spoke of anger and grief and the burning need for justice. Vasquez listened to all of it. She understood their pain because she felt it too. Her sister had lived on one of the destroyed colonies. Her niece and nephew gone without a trace. The aliens had taken everything from her. Now she would take everything from them. On the 8th day, the hegemony finally understood what was happening. Intercepted communications revealed their growing panic. The alien commanders were afraid. They did not know where the human ship was. They did not know what it could do. They only knew that something was coming for them. For the first time in 10,000 years, the great hegemony felt fear. Vasquez read the intercepted messages and felt something cold settle in her chest. It was not satisfaction. It was not joy. It was simply recognition. The aliens had started this war expecting easy prey. They had planned to wipe out humanity like insects. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The ruthless force jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the wreckage of the patrol fleet behind. Ahead lay the sacred systems of the hegemony worlds that had never known war. Cities that had never seen battle. That was about to change. The ruthless force dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Varathian core systems. Before them hung 3 beautiful worlds, ancient colonies that had existed for thousands of years. Cities covered their surfaces like glittering jewels. Billions of aliens lived peaceful lives below. Protected by the might of the hegemony, Admiral Vasquez looked at those worlds. and felt the weight of what she was about to do. She opened a broadcast on all frequencies. Her voice reached every ship, every station, every home in the system. This is Admiral Kira Vasquez of the United Earthship Ruthless Force. Your leaders voted to destroy humanity. They killed 18 billion of our people without warning. They plan to kill billions more. Today, you will learn that actions have consequences. She paused and took a breath. I am giving you 6 hours to evacuate your civilian population. Take your children. Take your elderly. Leave this system. In 6 hours, everything that remains will burn. The transmission ended. Vasquez sat back in her chair and waited. The hegemony did not evacuate. They did not believe her. For 10,000 years, they had been the masters of the galaxy. No species had ever threatened their core worlds. No enemy had ever made them afraid. They thought the human admiral was bluffing. 6 hours passed. The alien worlds below remained full of life. Ships flew between cities. People went about their daily business. The Varathians had heard the warning and laughed at it. Vasquez did not laugh. She simply nodded to Commander Reed. Fire the Star Lance array. Reed pressed the button. The Ruthless Force shuddered as energy built up in its main weapon. A beam of pure white light shot from the ship's bow, a lance of concentrated, stellar fire that struck the nearest planet like the finger of an angry god. The world cracked. Fissures spread across its surface like a broken egg. Oceans boiled into steam. Mountains crumbled into dust. Within minutes, the planet was nothing but a ball of molten rock and ash. Everyone who had remained soldiers, civilians, children, they all died in fire. Vasquez watched in silence. Her face showed no emotion. Inside, she felt something break. But she did not stop. The second world fell next. Then the third. The Ruthless Force moved through the system like death itself, leaving nothing but ash and debris behind. Distress calls flooded the communication networks. Alien voices screamed for help that would never come. When it was over, Vasquez stood alone in her quarters and looked at her hands. These hands had just killed billions. She had become exactly what the hegemony always claimed humans were: monsters, destroyers, beasts without mercy. But what choice did she have? The aliens had started this. They had voted to wipe out her entire species. They had killed 18 billion innocent people and planned to kill billions more. If she showed mercy, humanity would die. Every man, woman, and child on Earth would burn because she was too weak to do what was necessary. She thought of her sister, her niece, her nephew, gone, erased by aliens who saw humans as nothing more than pests. The hegemony had shown no mercy to them. Why should she show mercy now? The answer was simple. She should not. She could not. This was war, and in war, only the survivors got to feel guilt. News of the attack spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The 6 species of the hegemony reacted with shock and horror. For the first time in their history, someone had struck at their heart. Someone had made them bleed. The alliance began to crack. 3 species demanded immediate peace talks with humanity. They had not agreed with the extermination vote. They wanted nothing to do with a war against an enemy who could destroy worlds. 2 other species refused to surrender. They called for more ships, more weapons, more death. The war must continue until humanity was erased completely. The 6 species, the Varathians themselves, made a different choice. They voted to deploy their most terrible weapon, the void engines. These massive machines could erase entire star systems from existence. Not just planet stars themselves would be swallowed by artificial black holes. Nothing would remain. Not even light. The Varathians aimed their void engines at Earth. They would not just kill humanity, they would erase the very sun that had given. Birth to human civilization. Vasquez learned of this plan from intercepted communications. She felt her blood turn to ice. She had pushed the hegemony to desperation. Now they were going to destroy everything she was fighting to protect. But before she could react, the enemy found her. 800 Varathian warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and surrounded the ruthless force. They were the elite of the hegemony navy, the best ships, the best crews, the best weapons. They had come to destroy the monster that was terrorizing their empire. The battle lasted 9 hours. The ruthless force fought like a wounded lion, killing dozens of enemy ships for every hit it took. Commander Reed's weapons tore through alien hulls. The engines burned hot as the ship dodged and weaved through enemy fire. The crew fought with desperate courage, knowing that failure meant the end of everything. But even the ruthless force had limits. When the last enemy ship finally retreated, the human vessel was barely alive. 1/3 of the crew was dead. Entire sections of the hull had been torn open. Fires burned in a dozen compartments. The mighty ship that had terrorized an empire was now a broken wreck drifting in space. Vasquez stood on the ruined bridge and looked at the damage reports. They had won, but victory had cost them dearly. Then 2 messages arrived at the same time. The first came from Earth. The extermination fleet was 12 days away from the homeworld. 3,000 ships were coming to finish what the hegemony had started. The second came from Varathian High Command. The void engines had been activated. Their target was Sol, Earth Star. In 14 days, humanity's entire home system would be erased from existence. Vasquez closed her eyes. They had come so far. They had hurt the enemy so badly. But it was not enough. The hegemony was going to destroy Earth anyway, unless she stopped them. She looked at Commander Reed. How long to repair the Prometheus Protocol? Reed's face went pale. Admiral, you cannot be serious. How long? He swallowed hard. 12 days. If we work without sleep. Vasquez nodded slowly. Then get started. We have one more battle to fight. The crew of the ruthless force worked without rest. They patched holes in the hull with whatever metal they could find. They rewired damaged systems by hand. They carried the bodies of their fallen friends to the cargo bay and said quiet prayers before returning to work. Commander Reed led the team repairing the Prometheus Protocol. The weapon was humanity's darkest creation, a device that could collapse a star into a black hole. Using it would kill billions. Not using it would mean the death of Earth. Admiral Vasquez gathered her surviving crew in the main hangar. 700 soldiers stood before her, their faces covered in soot and dried blood. They had fought impossible battles. They had watched friends die. Now she was asking them to do something even harder. You all know what the Prometheus Protocol is, she said. Her voice was calm, but heavy with grief. You know what it does. If we use it against the Varathian homeworld, we will not just destroy their void engine. We will destroy their star, their planet, their entire species or most of it. Billions of people will die because of us. The hangar was silent. Every eye was fixed on the Admiral. I will not lie to you, Vasquez continued. What I am asking is monstrous. We will become the very thing they accused us of being. We will be killers on a scale the galaxy has never seen. She paused and looked at the deck. But if we do not act, Earth dies. Our families die. Our children die. Every human being in the universe dies because we were too moral to fight back. She raised her head and met their eyes. I am not ordering you to do this. I am asking. If any of you wish to leave, I will put you on an escape pod and send you toward friendly space. No one will judge you. No one will blame you. She waited. Who wants to leave? No one moved. Vasquez felt tears burn in her eyes, but she did not let them fall. Then let us end this war. The repairs took 11 days. The crew pushed themselves beyond exhaustion, beyond pain, beyond fear. They worked because there was nothing else to do. They worked because giving up meant death. On the 12th day, the ruthless force was ready. Vasquez sat in her command chair and looked at the navigation display. The Varathian home system was 3 days away at maximum speed. The Void engine would fire in 2 days. If they pushed the engines past their limits, they might arrive in time. All power to engines, Vasquez ordered. Take us to Varth Prime. The ship groaned as its engines burned hotter than they were ever designed to burn. The hull shook. Warning lights flashed across every console. But the ruthless force flew on, faster than any ship in history. 2 days later, they arrived. The Varathian home system was the heart of the hegemony. A yellow sun burned at its center, surrounded by 6 planets and dozens of moons. The largest planet, Varth Prime, was covered in cities that had existed for 50,000 years. This was where the alien empire had been born. This was where the vote to destroy humanity had taken place. And there, orbiting the planet like a metal moon, was the Void engine. The machine was massive, larger than any structure Vasquez had ever seen. Its surface was covered in strange symbols that seemed to glow with dark energy. Even from a distance, she could feel its power. This was a weapon that could eat stars. It was already aimed at Sol. In hours, it would fire. Between the ruthless force and its target stood the entire Varathian home fleet. 1,000 warships formed a wall of metal and fire. They had been waiting for her. They knew she was coming. Vasquez opened a channel to the enemy. This is Admiral Vasquez. Deactivate the Void engine and surrender. This is your only warning. The response came from High Chancellor Varth himself. His alien face filled the screen, twisted with hatred. You dare threaten us? You are one ship against 1,000. You will die here, and then your precious Earth will follow. Vasquez cut the transmission. She had expected nothing less. All hands to battle stations, she announced. This is our final fight. Make it count. The ruthless force charged into the enemy fleet like a sword into flesh. Weapons fired in all directions. Alien ships exploded. Human missiles found their targets. The space around Varth Prime became a sea of fire and death. The Varathian ships swarmed around the ruthless force like angry insects. They hit her with everything they had: lasers, missiles, plasma cannons, kinetic rounds. The human ship's armor held, then cracked, then began to fail. Sections of the hull were torn away. Crew members died at their stations, but still the ruthless force pushed forward. Commander Reed worked frantically at his console, targeting enemy ships even as the ceiling collapsed around him. Blood ran down his face from a wound on his forehead. He did not stop firing. Vasquez gripped her command chair as the ship shook from another hit. Half her bridge crew was dead. Fires burned everywhere. The main display showed their target, the Void engine now close enough to touch. Reed. She shouted over the chaos. Is Prometheus ready? Ready, Admiral. The ruthless force broke through the last line of enemy ships and came face to face with the Void engine. The massive weapon was powering up. Strange lights danced across its surface. In minutes, it would fire a beam of destruction that would cross the galaxy and swallow Earth's sun. Vasquez looked at the screen. Behind the Void engine, she could see Varth Prime, the alien homeworld. Cities glittered on its surface. Billions of lives, children, families, innocents who had nothing to do with the vote that condemned humanity. She thought of her sister, her niece, her nephew. She thought of Earth. Fire Prometheus, she whispered. The weapon activated. A sphere of absolute darkness launched from the ruthless force and struck the Void engine. For a moment, Nothing happened. Then the darkness began to grow. The void engine was the first thing to die. The weapon folded in on itself, crushed by gravity beyond imagination. Then the darkness reached for the sun. The star flickered. Then it began to collapse. Vasquez watched as the yellow sun of the Varathian home system fell into itself, swallowed by the singularity her ship had created. The light died. The warmth vanished. And then, with terrible slowness, the darkness reached for Varth Prime. The planet tried to run. It could not. Gravity pulled it toward the newborn black hole at the center of the system. Vasquez saw the cities, the oceans, the mountains, all of it stretched and torn apart as the world fell into darkness. Billions died in seconds. The ruthless force turned and fled, its engines screaming as they pushed away from the growing singularity. Behind them, the Varathian home system collapsed into nothing. Where an ancient empire had once ruled, there was now only a hole in space that swallowed light itself. Vasquez sat in her ruined command chair and stared at the emptiness where a world had been. She had saved humanity. She had killed billions to do it. She did not know if she could ever forgive herself. But her people would live. That was all that mattered now. The ruthless force drifted in the darkness between stars. Its engines were dead. Its weapons were silent. Great holes had been torn through its hull, exposing corridors and compartments to the cold vacuum of space. The mightiest ship humanity had ever built was now a broken wreck. Admiral Vasquez sat alone on the ruined bridge. 47 crew members had survived. Out of 2,000, only 47 remained. They huddled together in the few sections of the ship that still had air and heat, waiting for rescue that might never come. The communications array was damaged, but Reed had managed to send a distress signal before collapsing from exhaustion. Now all they could do was wait. 3 days passed. Vasquez spent the time walking through the ship, stepping over debris and bodies. She memorized the face of every fallen crew member. She owed them that much. They had given everything so that humanity could survive. On the 4th day, lights appeared in the darkness. Human ships, dozens of them, dropped out of faster than light, traveled and surrounded the ruthless force. Medical teams boarded within minutes, carrying the wounded to safety and covering the dead with white sheets. A young officer found Vasquez on the bridge and saluted with tears in his eyes. "Admiral," he said, his voice breaking, "Earth is safe." The Varathian extermination fleet surrendered when they learned what happened. The war is over. Vasquez nodded slowly. She felt nothing. No joy, no relief. Just emptiness. How many? She asked. The officer understood the question. The Varathian homeworld had 8 billion inhabitants. The colonies survived maybe 2 billion more. The species will continue. He paused. They are calling you a monster, Admiral. But they are also calling for peace. Monster. Yes, that was exactly what she was. Vasquez returned to Earth 3 weeks later. The journey felt longer than any battle she had ever fought. She spent most of it alone in her quarters, staring at the wall and trying not to think about the things she had done. When her ship entered Earth's orbit, she looked down at the blue planet that had given birth to her species. Oceans sparkled in the sunlight. White clouds drifted over green continents. 8 billion people lived on that world, people who would have died if she had not acted. She had saved them. She had damned herself to do it. Perhaps that was a fair trade. The celebrations began the moment she stepped off her shuttle. Crowds filled the streets, cheering and waving flags. They called her a hero. They called her the savior of humanity. Politicians wanted to give her medals. Generals wanted to promote her. The whole world wanted to thank the woman who had ended the war. Vasquez refused. Everything. She gave one statement to the press, standing alone on a stage before millions of viewers. Her uniform was clean. but her eyes were tired. She spoke without emotion. "I did what was necessary to save humanity," she said. "I destroyed an entire civilization to protect our own. I killed billions of people, most of them innocent, because their leaders gave me no other choice." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "I am not a hero. I am a survivor who did terrible things to keep our species alive. I hope no one ever has to make that choice again." She walked off the stage and never appeared in public again. The galaxy changed after the war. The hegemony collapsed within months. Without the Varathians to lead them, the 6 species went their separate ways. Some formed new alliances. Others retreated to their home systems and closed their borders. The great empire that had ruled for 10,000 years was gone. Humanity took its place among the stars. Not as a minor species, not as pests to be tolerated, but as equals. The new Galactic Council offered Earth a permanent seat. The ambassador who accepted that seat was not a politician or a general. It was a young woman whose parents had died on one of the destroyed colonies. She represented the future humanity had almost lost. The other species treated humans differently now. There was respect in their voices when they spoke. But there was also fear. They had seen what humanity could do when pushed to the edge. They had learned that the soft, young species from the small blue planet was capable of burning worlds. Some called it justice. Others called it terror. The truth was somewhere in between. Years passed. Life went on. Children were born who had never known the war. They grew up hearing stories about the dark times, about the alien empire that had tried to wipe out humanity, about the ship that had saved them all. The ruthless force became a monument. The broken ship was repaired just enough to hold together, then placed in orbit around Earth. School children visited on field trips. They walked through the corridors where heroes had fought and died. They touched the walls that had been scorched by enemy fire. They read the names of the fallen, carved into metal plates that lined the memorial hall. A guide would always tell them the same thing at the end of each tour. She was an old woman now, with gray hair and tired eyes. She had served on the Ruthless Force long ago, when she was young and the universe was burning. "This ship taught the galaxy that humanity will do anything to survive," she would say. "We are not the strongest species. We are not the oldest. But when someone threatens our existence, we fight back with everything we have. We do not surrender. We do not beg. We make our enemies regret the day they decided to destroy us." The children would listen with wide eyes, not fully understanding the weight of those words. "Pray you never have to learn what that really means," the old woman would add. And far away, in the darkness where the Varathian home system once spun, there was nothing. No stars, no planets, no light. Just a black hole that swallowed everything that came near, and the memory of the day the galaxy learned to respect the human race. The war was over. Humanity had won, but victory, Admiral Vasquez had learned, was not the same as peace. Some wounds never healed. Some prices could never be repaid. She had saved her species by becoming a monster, and she would carry that weight until the day she died. In her final years, living alone in a small house by the sea, Vasquez would sometimes look up at the stars and think about the billions who had died, human and alien alike. She did not ask for forgiveness. She did not expect it. She only hoped that the future would be better than the past, that the children playing on the beaches would never have to make the choices she had made, that humanity would find a way to be strong without being cruel. That was her prayer. That was her hope. It was all she had left.